Those of you who are a part of the Best of Us Investors tribe got a letter from me this morning, and I indicated that I would be out, and the letter was going to be brief because Nita had a early morning MRI. Let me give you a little background. And why I'm doing this is I experienced today the medicine of the future. And this whole situation is indicative of what's going to happen in the medicine of the future, the medical profession. Nita fell about 11 years ago down a flight of stairs and broke her foot. And when she fell, she hit her face on the floor. We went to our practitioner. It happened in Atlanta. I brought her home. They examined the foot and said that she sure did break her foot, and it was going to have to be operated on. And it turned out it took 7 screws to put her foot back together. But that was really the minor part of what happened. Our general practitioner suggested that she get a MRI to make sure nothing happened as a result of her falling and bruising her face. As it turned out, that MRI brought to our attention that she had a tumor in her brain, in her head. If you think of the brain, it's 2 lobes like this, and out the back comes the part that connects to the spinal cord, and there's a void area right here behind your nose. In that void area was a tumor. It right now is about the size of 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches. It's not a cube, it is more like an egg, a small egg, maybe a duck egg or something of that nature. And it sits there, and as it progressed, it made her deaf in her left ear. It actually squeezed the auditory nerve, and she now has no hearing out of her left ear. She has perfect hearing out of her right ear, so she has a screwy little hearing aid that broadcasts from her left ear to her right ear. So she doesn't know where the dogs are in the backyard. So we've every year, actually for a long time, every quarter, she went and got an MRI. She's now down to 18 months MRI. And so this morning we went to the MRI, and then we came home, and at 10 o'clock we had an appointment with her neurologist and his nurse practitioner, to give her examination. And it started with the nurse practitioner, and she did all the touching the nose, and do you see this, and do you see that? And so that took about a half an hour, and then we spent another 15 minutes with the neurologist. What I saw in this was the medicine of the future. What I realized was that we were getting the best that these 2 people could offer. And what do I mean by that? I mean their knowledge and their experience is limited to what's in their head. Their observation abilities had to come through a camera. I had to hold that camera so that I could show that she could walk heel to toe. This is usually what was done in the office. But I think this is medicine of the future. What I realized, though, as we went through this, was their knowledge was limited to what they had in their head. The experiences that they have had over the years, the teachings that they have, the continuing education that they have. And I realized that everything that they did today could have been done better by a bot. And what do I mean by that? The questions were the same. They are the same questions we've heard for the past 11 years. The exercises were the same that we've heard for the last 11 years. The difference between them and a bot, though, would be the bot would have not only the knowledge that the bot possessed, but all the knowledge that was in the cloud. All the examinations of, let's just pick a number and say that similar examinations for a non-malignant tumor in your brain number 2 million all across the world. And they are now being done by bots. And so Nita's examination can be compared with the examinations of 2 million other people. And then from that, we will digest all the information from those 2 million examinations and put them together and make decisions. And that's what we call artificial intelligence added by machine learning, so that Nita's examination helps Fred's examination, and Fred's examination helps Nita's examination, and we multiply that times 1 million. And now we have real diagnosis that is at a level that mankind has never known before. Again, the skill of the two people we had is limited to what they have, what they know, and they don't know enough. As a result of that kind of examination, much like we went to the doctor initially to get her foot fixed, he was bright enough to say, you got a bruise on your cheek, we need to have that examined. The bot is looking at Nita with the camera, and the bot might see something on her neck that the doctor is not equipped to analyze. And that would take us down another road, just like the foot took us to the brain and took us to the tumor. We got lucky there. And by that I mean, I've had a similar experience where it didn't work out that way. My daughter injured her foot while running cross country when she was 16 years old. We didn't realize that created a tumor in her foot for roughly 5 years. We were misdiagnosed by roughly 15 doctors. And it was the 16th doctor who said, let's do an MRI. Everybody else had done x-rays. But the MRI could see a soft tissue sarcoma. That resulted in an amputation of her leg and then ultimately her death from the cancer that grew in her foot. While at an event, a bicycling event, I stood next to a young man who was 32 years old, and I asked him what his situation was, and he said he had a soft tissue sarcoma as well that was removed, and it was in his stomach. And he didn't know he had it until he couldn't poop anymore. And I asked him, how big was it? And he said the size of a football in your stomach. And he was about a 5'9" kid who probably weighed 165 pounds. And he had a soft tissue sarcoma. Think of it as a Nerf football in his stomach. And it almost killed him. That would not happen if he had a smart bathroom, if his poop had been analyzed, if his pee had been analyzed, if he had stood in front of a camera, a mirror, naked, and it would have been seen. That wouldn't have happened. That's where we're going. That's where the science, the technology is taking us. And it has just been taken from a 10-mile-an-hour trip to a 150-mile-an-hour trip as a result of this pandemic. Because there is going to be a decision made that this pandemic cannot happen again, and your privacy and your fear of the government finding out something about you that you don't want them to know is going to become secondary to the survival of our civilization. We cannot do this again. We're into it, what, March to October. We're into it 8 months, and we're not halfway through yet. We will not be totally vaccinated and it being done with. And then we've got to immediately start worrying about the next virus. So my interest as a 76-year-old is this can save my life. And so I want it to happen. My interest as an investor is who is going to bring this to me. Well, what I explained to you was artificial intelligence and machine learning. We did a video on that just last week, and we know who that chip maker is. And we've talked about that. We know who has the data and the ability to accumulate the data in the big six. So we know we want to invest in them because, again, they are going to change the way we live. I encourage you to read this book, Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. Why we age and why we don't have to. Because we have the ability now through genome therapy, through genome manipulation, through in-home diagnostics, through cloud diagnostics, through artificial intelligence, through machine learning. We don't have to die because we have the capability to cure and eliminate everything that kills us. Death is not something that just happens. It happens, number one, because of something that goes wrong within your body. And secondly, because you don't take care of your body. As we went to the facility today to have the MRI, I was shocked at the number of obese people moving through that facility. It doesn't have to be that way. And we need to know that, and we need to know what we need to do to make sure it doesn't happen. And I, as an investor, need to identify these companies and take ownership of them. That's exactly what I said. I don't mean I buy and sell and I trade. I mean I take ownership of the companies that are going to change the world. Now, I am of the belief that we have worked ourselves into a position where we're going to have a crash. It has nothing to do with the technology of the future. It has nothing to do with me living to 150 years of age if I go about it properly. It has everything to do with the mismanagement of our economy today. We have taken this thing from $4 trillion worth of deficit in 2000 to $24 trillion of deficit of debt of our country. And you've done the same thing with your credit cards and your home mortgages, and you just keep taking more and more and more, and you're not acting accordingly to accumulate wealth and make your life better. This is going to tumble. This is going to come apart, but I don't give a damn. I know it's going to happen, but I also know who's going to take me to the future. I know that it's the big six. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the big six, you need to read this book. Notice it's not called the big six. It's called the big nine. And it talks about the people who are accumulating the data and then adapting that data with artificial intelligence and machine learning and are going to give you what I just described, a better life, a life that you can live forever, if you choose to. Now, if you choose to sit on the sofa and eat Twinkies, drink Cokes, and smoke cigarettes while you watch Judge Judy, no, it ain't going to happen. because you're not taking responsibility. If you're not going to read this book, you're not going to be a good investor. If you're not going to read this book, you're not going to be a good. You got to put in the work, whether it's obesity or it's wealth. You got to put in the work. The tools are all there. They are there for me to expand my lifespan, but it's my responsibility. And the tools are there for me to accumulate family wealth and keep more of what I make. But in order to do that, to keep more of what I make, I need to understand the tax laws. Wait a second, how do I do that? It involves doing the work. Understanding. You can learn some of it from me, from YouTube, but eventually you got to do the work. You got to read the tax code. You got to understand it. Have dinner with Donald Trump. He understands it. Have dinner with Jeff Bezos. He understands it. Mark Zuckerberg. These people understand the tax code, so they keep more of what they make. If you don't, shame on you. If you only file one tax return, a joint tax return, shame on you that you don't have an LLC or a limited family partnership or a C Corp. Shame on you, because you're not sheltering the money that you work just as hard as Jeff and Mark do, but you're not doing the work. So, I learned a lot today. I learned what medicine's going to look like, and I'm going to invest in the companies that are going to be a part of this change. Jim Rogers said, find a company that nobody's paying attention to, but who is going to benefit from the change. Find the company who has the undervalued assets. Undervalued assets are data. Because they're going to be manipulated with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And there's only about 10% of us who know what the hell I'm talking about right now. And if you will expand that to 11%, as you learn it, you got the leg up. You can even beat the quantum computers because you know what's coming. Join Best of Us Investors. Like this video, give it a thumbs up, and become a part of the winning team. Best of Us Investors.